Well, welcome back, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or welcome, wherever you are in the world. So welcome back to Jewelry Industry Voices, the webinar series hosted by CIBJO, the World Jewelry Confederation. Now, today, we are going to be talking about, I would say, the most widely discussed topic of the past few months, the metaverse. The aim here is essentially to shine some light on the opportunities that lie in the metaverse and with NFTs for the gem and jewelry trade. So thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. We had a very large registration number for this webinar. I'm sure that's a reflection, not just of the topic, but of the fantastic panelists that we have joining us today. Firstly, let me thank our sponsor. Sincere thanks go to Uni Diamonds, our technology sponsor for season 3 of Jewelry Industry Voices. And our thanks personally, especially to Mahir Borhanju, the CEO of Uni Diamonds, for his support for CIBJO and the work that we do here. Uni is simplifying diamond sales for retailers, vendors, and for wholesalers. By providing technology, market data, and sophisticated logistics services, all bring clarity and transparency that are needed for the industry. Uni is backed by Malka Amit and is already serving hundreds of retailers and vendors from all over the world. If you want to learn more, please visit their website at Uni Diamonds to learn more. Thank you. So let's get started. My name is Edward Johnson. I'm one of the moderators today. It's always every month my pleasure to be with you for these webinars, and thank you for joining again. I'm joined also by Steve Benson, CIBJO's Director of Communications. Steve, good afternoon to you over there in Tel Aviv. You're on mute, Steve.
Indeed, I am. Not anymore, I hope. Just a few technical instructions for those of you who might be joining us for the first time. The webinar is scheduled to run an hour. Typically, we run a little bit longer, and that's fine. I mean, you can if you don't, you can stay on as long as you want. We do direct questions from the audience to our panelists. Our request in that case over here is that you use the Q&A box that you can get by normally at the bottom of your screen on a Zoom call, and to write your question in. The panelists might actually choose to answer you in writing if it's a short question. But we will follow the questions, and we will reserve space to ask those questions at the end. The webinar will also be recorded, and the recording will go up onto CIBJO's YouTube channel, most probably, maybe even later this evening, but most probably tomorrow. What I'd like to do now is to invite Gaetana Cavalieri, CIBJO's president, just to say a few words of welcome, and then we will get the whole thing underway. Gaetana?
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you, Ed. And I hope you are enjoying in Mozambique today. I would like, first of all, thank the panelists for their participation to this interesting subject and topic that we have today. And clearly, I want to express my deep appreciation and thanks to Uni Diamond. Mayar is a very good friend, and I believe that today we all may add something totally new to our knowledge. I think it will be interesting. We are working in CIBJO on several projects. And this is done simply to give to the industry, but overall to the consumer, a clear, better understanding of what the jewelry industry is, meaning a super wonderful, shining industry. So thank you very much, and I hope you all enjoy.
Great, thank you, Gaetano, as always. Let me introduce the panelists for today. Firstly, Mahir Borhanju. Mahir has a unique mix of international experience gained leading operations with world-renowned companies. He's had senior executive roles with De Beers and Venus Jewels, and he joined Uni Diamonds in 2019. Mahir, you're in London this afternoon. Good afternoon. How's the weather there?
As beautiful as ever, which means sometimes raining, sometimes cloudy, and stunning as one would expect. Nice to be with everyone. Hello.
It's great for you to be with us, and thanks for that weather report. And next, let's jet off up north to North Yorkshire. Elle Hill. Elle is a renowned entrepreneur in the diamond, gemstone, and jewelry industry. As founder and CEO of Hill and Company, Elle and her team help craft business strategy, harness technology, and grow revenue. And Elle, as one of the people who follow all of your videos on LinkedIn and other social media, I feel like I've been to your house up there in the beautiful North Yorkshire Hills many, many times. How are you today?
I'm wonderful today. I'm lucky I have my COO from New York here, and she's been enjoying that garden.
Nice one. Thanks for joining us. Good to have you with us as always. And next, let's journey to Milano for Laura Inchirami. Now, Laura is an influential Italian opinion leader, ranked by Forbes Italia as one of the top under 30 leaders of the future in 2022. She runs Donna Jewel, which offers consulting services to jewelry companies in the digital, marketing, and creative fields. Ciao, Laura. How are you?
Hi, Edward. Hello, everybody. And thank you, CIBJO, for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here with all of you.
You are most welcome. Your first time to join us here on Jewelry Industry Voices. Thank you for being with us. Next, let's go to the beautiful city of Miami. Eric Jens is there this morning. Eric has held senior management roles at financial institutions, most recently with ABN AMRO, and now holds many non-executive positions. However, exploring the world of blockchain and cryptocurrencies and re-engineering banking and finance models is the focus for his new venture on fintech for the luxury industry. Eric, good afternoon. How's Miami today?
Yes, good afternoon and good morning from here from Miami. Let's not talk about the weather because, you know, the weather here is always pretty good. So, but I'm happy to be back and happy to be in Jewelry Industry Voices, and thanks CIBJO for making this happen. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion with my dear industry friends in the panel.
Great, thanks for joining us. Now, Steve, I believe to start, you wanted to give a little brief introduction to the metaverse. So over to you.
Yes, I will. What we thought we would do was that because we're working on the assumption that there is most probably a large variance of knowledge within our audience over here exactly as to what the metaverse is and some of the terminology that's being used. What we thought we would do is we'd run a very brief introduction so that people would feel comfortable with some of the concepts and the words that will come up during the course of the discussion. We apologize to anybody that we are insulting their intelligence over here. I'm sure there are people who know a lot about it. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to run a brief video, which is actually from a much longer presentation that was given by Mark Zuckerberg when he introduced Meta, which is the new name of Facebook. And we just took a few clips out of it over here, which I think will give us a relatively good introduction to what we're talking about. And then we'll go through some of the 4 of the most important terms, and then we'll get the discussion underway. So So if you will bear with me for a second, I'm going to run that video and then we'll go through the terms, and then Ed, you can take off from that. So hold on, I'm just going to remove the.
The basic story of technology in our lifetimes is how it's given us the power to express ourselves and experience the world with ever greater richness. Back when I started Facebook, that mostly meant text that we typed on computers. Then we all got phones with cameras, and the internet became much more visual. And recently, as connections got faster, video has become the main way that we experience content. We've gone from desktop to web to phones, from text to photos to video, but this isn't the end of the line. The next platform and medium will be even more immersive, an embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it. And we call this the metaverse. And you're gonna be able to do almost anything you can imagine. Get together with friends and family, work, learn, play, shop, create, as well as entirely new categories that don't really fit how we think about computers or phones today. Now, since we're doing this remotely today, I figured let's make this special. So we've put together something that I think is really going to give you a feeling for what this future could be like. We believe the metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. We'll be able to feel present, like we're right there with people, no matter how far apart we actually are. We'll be able to express ourselves in new, joyful, completely immersive ways, and that's going to unlock a lot of amazing new experiences. When I send my parents a video of my kids, they're gonna feel like they're right in the moment with us, not peering through a little window. When you play a game with your friends, you'll feel like you're right there together in a different world, not just on your computer by yourself. And when you're in a meeting in the metaverse, it'll feel like you're right in the room together, making eye contact, having a shared sense of space, and not just looking at a grid of faces on a screen. Over the last year and a half, a lot of us who work in offices have gone remote. And while I miss seeing the people I work with, I think remote work is here to stay for a lot of people. So we're gonna need better tools to work together. Let's take a look at what working in the metaverse will be like. Imagine if you could be at the office without the commute. You would still have that sense of presence, shared physical space, those chance interactions that make your day all accessible from anywhere. Now imagine that you have your perfect work setup and you can actually do more than you could in your regular work setup. And on top of all that, you can keep wearing your favorite sweatpants.
Looking good. Let's get together real quick for a debrief.
I'm free now. Let's jump in. Hi.
Hey.
So what do we think?
I think it's ready.
Great.
I'll prep it for the presentation.
All right. Good luck.
Imagine a space where you can tune out distractions and focus on the task at hand. And when you're ready to share what you've been working on, you can present it as if you're right there with the team.
Wait, where's Mark?
I think he's in the middle of something.
Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, so we've got essentially 4 terms over here that that we just thought that we would bring out over here. They're going to come out. The first one obviously is metaverse over here, which I think, as you will understand over here, is a virtual environment. In other words, not a physical environment, a digitally generated environment that people will access via the internet. And to access it, you will need to take advantage of other technologies, and the two most prominent that we will talk about most probably are virtual reality and augmented reality. If we run down into sort of in the bottom left-hand corner over here, we've got virtual reality is essentially a complete immersion in the environment. In other words, you take you will take 3D goggles, you'll put them on, they will completely block out any other visual stimulation that you will have, and you will seem to be transported into a separate environment. Which I never put up, and I'll put up some links into the chat box. They're also developing what are called like haptic gloves and haptic suits, which means that not only your visual senses will be incorporated, but you will actually be able to hold things, touch things, and feel things on your body using equipment that is being developed. There are YouTube videos that I've got a few that I'll put into the chat box. Which, by the way, if you want to see the full Zuckerberg presentation, it's about an hour long. That's also available on YouTube. The third term that we thought we're talking about is augmented reality, and that sort of falls between full virtual reality and the real world. It most probably will be achieved by putting on a pair of glasses. I don't know if people remember the Google glasses that were being developed, but there's a bunch of them now. And essentially, this superimposes a computer-generated image onto the real world. The sort of picture that we saw of the guy sitting at his desk and suddenly, brings an image above the desk or taps on things, that's augmented reality as opposed to virtual reality, because he stays within his environment. And the third term over here that that will be also part of the discussion, and Eric certainly is going to get into it in more detail over here, are NFTs. An NFT which stands for non-fungible token. It's a unique unit of data stored on a blockchain that can be sold and traded. In other words, it's a digital file, but it's a digital file that belongs only to the person that possesses it. So like a physical piece of property, it is something digital that actually can move from person to person over here. It can be traded, it can be, and you can show ownership of that file. And with that, because otherwise we will not have enough time, Ed, I'm going to hand it back over to you and we can get going.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for that comprehensive introduction. Let's dive into the questions. Mahir, let's start with you first, if I can. Now, as we've learned and as we're hearing, the metaverse is a digitally generated environment, whereas diamonds, gemstones, and jewelry are physical objects. So how do you, Mahir, how do you gauge the potential of the metaverse for our industry, and how prepared are we to make the necessary transition?
So I think as we start looking and understanding and appreciating what the newer generations have already started adapting in their life, of being in the metaverse and communicating and transversing and learning various things. My daughter, who's 10 years old, teaches me new things every day of what she's learned on the metaverse, which surprises the heck out of me. I think the generations, as Generation X, Generation Y, and to some extent the millennials, are going to be living in more of a digital/physical world, or a phygital world, if you want to consider it that way, because it's great to have the ability to have products, and you're starting to see it, like LVMH is doing some really great things around it, and some of the other high-end brands are doing things around it, where you buy a pair of sneakers, but those sneakers that are limited edition have an NFT that's linked to them that allows you to be able to wear it in various different games and gaming products. And so the question for us in our industry is, is this one step closer for us to getting towards more of a digital metaverse world, where we can have a phygital environment where both the physical and the digital somehow can interlink and be together. I was having this conversation earlier with our head of technology and our head of data, and we were talking about how the metaverse can be completely separate from the physical world, but you cannot buy a house unless you have a deed. You cannot buy a car unless there's a papers that go with it. And so is there a way to be able to bring that phygital world together in our industry to really create something unique for the consumer? And would the consumer actually take this as the next step towards the future of where our industry should be leaning to?
Yeah. I love the fact that you bring up that word phygital. It's such a great word. We learned it in one of the early webinars that we run here from Jewelry Industry Voices, and it kind of says it all. It's the mix between the two. Elle, can I turn to you? I mean, let's bring the topic, if we can, down to earth. And can I ask you to give us some real world practical applications that are being used today? I mean, how may the metaverse be leveraged by your average jewelry store owner or brand or designer? And what's that going to evolve into for them?
Got it. So there are a few big buckets that are instantly relatable for our industry. And that's authenticity, traceability, documenting ownership, guaranteeing authenticity. We go way back with diamond certification. And whenever I think of paper, I have a paperless office. All my files are online, right? In a shared place where other people can get them. The fact that we're still doing certification on paper is a bit of a dusty old cough, if you ask me. So here's three major buckets of where we can apply the use of NFTs and the metaverse in our jewelry stores and diamond purveyors today. There are some exciting examples that are being used as we speak over the course of the last year or two. And I would like to highlight a few of them from major jewelry companies such as Asprey, Richemont, Cartier, exciting things from IceCap, and even from brands that are dabbling in fine jewelry like Dolce & Gabbana. So IceCap is using NFTs in order to authenticate and enable the buying and selling of diamonds without moving those diamonds around. So they'll keep them vaulted and audited regularly, but it will be the NFTs that are being viewed and traded around the industry among the buyers and sellers. And Dolce & Gabbana had a very exciting thing happen last year. I believe $1.25 million was the crown that they sold with blue sapphires and 172 diamonds for 423 ether. So this happened, a capsule collection that contained clothing, couture, and also something they called the impossible tiara, which contained gemstones not available on Earth.
Wow.
This is happening, and that one sold for $350,000, 99.99 ether. So people are buying and selling these as we speak. Asprey, a very prestigious British brand, also announced their plan to release NFTs. But before we get too excited, Ed, Cartier and Richemont, for example, said, no. This is all really nascent. It's really young. And we want to watch this a little more closely. However, we understand that bolstering authenticity, tracing of ownership with prestigious pieces from companies such as Cartier and Richemont groups of companies. So they embraced the blockchain and launched Aura, as I think was mentioned earlier. So there's a few different practical applications and current exciting things that are happening already last year.
And I think that's great that, we're already immediately highlighting the fact that, listen, this is very new technology. We're not sure where it's going. Don't go all in, but, keep your mind open and learn about it. And let's see where this goes. But it offers real opportunities to really authenticate your brand and your product. So thank you for that, Elle. Eric, let's turn to you. You've been working with NFTs with our good friend Rina Alawalia in Toronto. Can you please share some examples of how non-fungible tokens are being used in the gem and jewelry world today?
Absolutely, and it was great to work together with Rena on her initiative, and she was actually the first launching a jewelry NFT in the industry. So I can only applaud her for doing so. It's quite amazing, and a lot of other companies followed suit. But maybe we're already digging very much into what is the metaverse, etc. But I think we should put a couple of things in perspective. And the way I always try to explain it, and try to explain it to myself, what are we talking about when we talk about metaverse and NFTs? So let's try to demystify it a little bit. The way I see it, that actually, if you go back 20, 30 years ago, we had an intranet. The US Army had an intranet, the IBM had an intranet. So these were all company or small community intranets. So later on, these intranets got all connected and became the internet of what we know now. I remember Bill Gates saying in 1995, well, I don't believe in the internet. There's not going to be anything like what we know what it is now. So it's interesting enough, we talk about Zuckerberg, we talk about Gates. I mean, yeah, these people can be wrong as well. So from the internet from the intranet to the internet, and then the internet became the Internet of Things. Thousands and millions of computers and all kind of devices got online. That created the Internet of Things as such a technology, which we talked about earlier, blockchain. And the blockchain technology, I mean, we took an initiative as ABN AMRO at the time when I was there 5 years ago, together with Everledge and IBM and everybody in industry, including the BIAs, etc., to start traceability programs. And we see a lot of them right now. And Al mentioned already Aura, so it's an amazing example, by the way. So the technology blockchain was created because of the fact we had the Internet of Things. I put it quite simple. And then that kind of technology created opportunities to create cryptocurrencies. From cryptocurrencies, we have also smart contracts for trade finance, for real estate, anything else. And that basically created also the opportunity to have art in NFTs, digital art in NFTs. But you can put everything in an NFT. Could be watches, could be everything. So I think we have to see that journey from the intranet to the Internet of Things, then the new technology like blockchain, leading now into the metaverse. And like the internet is a public space, the metaverse is a public space as well. And I remember discussions that people didn't know what the internet was, etc. But I think this is about learning by doing and getting involved as an industry, as a jewelry industry. And I would make a plea that actually the jewelry industry, as part of the luxury industry, is one of the best industries positioned to make absolute use of the metaverse in engagement with our clients and our customers and the buyers. So it's an amazing opportunity.
That's a great message. Mahir, you have something to add?
I have a question for the panelists, and this is something that we as an organization are really questioning today. The comments that are made today are great when you're talking about physical and digital products coming together. But an NFT, in its truest sense, when you talk to our head of data, for example, says there shouldn't be a link between the two. Actually, the art that's the NFT, the piece itself, should be able to hold its own value and be able to be sold at its own product. And the art, for example, in its physical space, should also be able to do the same. So my question to the panelists, and something that maybe we can talk through in the rest of the presentation, is there a way that you would foresee this happening, not for the elite and great and phenomenal products, but for a 1 carat GSI 1 XXX non-fluorescent engagement ring? Could that actually be able to have its own world, its own realm in the digital space only, as an NFT, or can it truly become, or must it truly be always linked to the physical product itself? So it's something that I'd love to get feedback from the rest of the team.
Steve, you wanted to go first, and then Elle. Steve, you're on mute.
Steve, better you put your microphone on so the people can hear you.
Okay, sorry. What I was saying is that I have a concept over here, which I think at the end of the day, any concept is only going to be borne out by history, essentially by what happens. But in the current environment over here, and particularly within the metaverse over here, if we have a situation essentially that every single item that is sold with a connected NFT, all right, then the ability to deal, or essentially to trade that item within the metaverse and to change ownership of that item becomes possible. You buy a diamond, you essentially in the metaverse, you take possession of the NFT, but in taking the possession of the NFT, you also take possession of the diamond. In that specific instance, then the question of traceability is answered, because essentially that record of the diamond being that you can get through the blockchain over here essentially becomes a traceable record that will also follow the product.
Yeah, clear.
I mean, that's the way I think it should work. I understand the issue, and I think Eric sort of takes that stand as well, is that it could be possible to separate the two, and then your NFT has a value in the same way as does the diamond. I think that's the more sort of, straight economic question. But in terms of the some of the most pressing questions that the industry has had, the ability to trace objects simply by tracing, by being able to track them through a blockchain would solve a lot of the problems over here that we've been struggling with already for years.
Yeah, thanks for that, Steve. Thanks for that, Steve. Yeah, Elle, you had a question, and then I'm very keen to bring Laura in. So Elle first.
Yes, it's in response to Meir. You asked, like, should it have its own intrinsic value when not attached to any physical piece? But whenever we approach new technology, new products, services, solutions, or opportunities that we're creating, we must be led by the audience we are serving, right? So it should, if that's what the audience demands, but I think the question is maybe better posed as, can it? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. When we lived in mud huts, we weren't really concerned about decorating, but once we had houses, we want to decorate them. And once we have places on Fortnite, for example, and we're wearing clothes, we want to dress those emojis in that Ralph Lauren jacket if we so choose.
Well, that's a nice point. I'm not sure I'm really interested in dressing my emoji and Laura in Versace, but whatever. Laura, let's move to you, Laura. From your perspective, how is the metaverse being used now from where you sit? And you're the youngest person in the room here, so I ask you to speak with that hat on. But how is the metaverse being used by jewelry brands, and what is the potential for it for your generation?
Thank you, Edward. First of all, I believe that this is a topic which I really consider fascinating, also because it is at its early stage of development. It is a subject that still must be discovered and studied along with its development, and for this reason, it is difficult to give definitive answers. In general, I believe that the metaverse has great potential in jewelry, as more and more the fashion and the luxury companies are investing on it, and these may consequently pull the whole industry of jewelry in the future. An example of an initiative that, for my personal opinion, made a great use of this potential, as I'll say, the Aura Blockchain Consortium, founded in 2021 by Prada Group, along with Richemont, in particular Cartier and LVMH. So Aura uses a blockchain to bring the customer experience to a new level by tracing the history and the authenticity of a product. In other words, it allows the customer to have a direct access to the history of products and the guarantee of authenticity, with the possibility to follow their entire life cycle from the creation until the end customer in a very transparent way. Specifically for jewelry, one of Cartier's first use of Aura, according to Vogue Business, is to track jewelry being repaired. This means means that when a customer sends a piece back for repair, an NFT is created on the Aura blockchain, and this is related to the piece. And so all the updates to the repair are locked into this new space, and the customer can easily follow it. So if we think about Aura, I believe that the potential could be connected to the uniqueness of a product and its traceability. Also because another use for Cartier's Aura is diamond traceability. Cartier logged the data at source into Aura, providing a long-term proof of this traceability. Nevertheless, I believe one should take the word of fashion as an indicator to understand what may happen in the future for our sector. In particular, one of the pioneer fashion brands was for sure Gucci, that a few months ago unveiled the Gucci Vault into the Sandbox Metaverse. This is a virtual world where users and clients can live a completely digital life, playing and living interactive fashion experience. And in this virtual space, which is populated by avatars, users can really select fashion item to buy, own, and use in their experiences. And the potential of living a new experience in a new world as the metaverse is also attested by the first metaverse fashion week that was held a few weeks ago, and maisons like Dolce & Gabbana or Etro took part of it, and for the first time in history showed their fashion collection on avatars. So as you may notice, everything is really recent, so there will be many things to come, for my personal opinion, and I'm curious to see how this phenomenon will evolve in the future for the jewelry industry.
I think you're so right, Laura, and thank you for highlighting that. You know, we really, in the jewelry industry, we really need to watch how fashion is using the metaverse and NFTs, because that's a guiding light and a guiding star at this time. Let's talk for a little bit specifically about NFTs, and Eric, let's turn to you especially, because you know you've been doing a lot of work on them, as you said, with Rena, the first one that was launched in the industry. So, and you talked earlier about we need to learn by doing. So what can we learn, or what have you learned from initiatives that you've been part of with Rena and other initiatives by other luxury and fashion brands such as Nike, Bulgari, Kendra Scott, HB Diamonds, and many others, to name just a few. Eric, what do you think?
Exactly, and I want to echo a little bit what Laura was saying as well. We mentioned earlier already Aura, and I think it's going to be an amazing platform going forward from that point of view. We can learn a lot from what Aura is doing from that point of view as well. I mean, they just said we're going to invite hotel chains, we're going to have all kind of luxury other brands coming on the platform as well. So keep an eye on that. So we can learn a lot as a jewelry industry from other sectors, particularly the fashion. So we've been saying that already quite a number of times. So let's keep on doing that. But getting back to your questions, a couple of things we can learn. What we learned, what I learned at least by learning by doing, was that creating communities is extremely important. And I think, Laura, again, you are a community on your own, basically, but creating community to be successful, to launch basically any kind of product, any kind of NFT in the metaverse, etc., is extremely important. And that's what you see companies like Nike and Bulgari. I saw in what was it? In Rome, they had a huge launch of that new watch, the $444,000 watch. But there were thousands of people creating that community. It is absolutely amazing to create a community. Without a community, you can try whatever to put NFTs out on the market, on the platforms, but nobody will buy it. So spend time on that. The other thing is pricing. And make sure you get the right price. Don't make it too expensive. Don't make it too cheap. Whatever you want to do, and don't think you can go for a quick buck or whatsoever, because I think there's a lot of opportunistic kind of things out there. So you have to be genuine in what you do. So pricing, community, and be very genuine. And the other thing I want to make in this context,
carry on.
Yeah, in this context, what I want to demystify it again from what I said earlier. Listen, we started our industry in bricks and mortar, so basically in shops and in trade shows or whatsoever. But then we had the whole discussion: are we going online, yes or no? The online business, what is it, and how we deal with it? So there was a big debate. I mean, everybody forgets the fact that we had that big debate and whether you could be successful online. There were a lot of people saying you can't be successful online, and look what it is now. So I would put the metaverse in that same kind of public space of bricks and mortar on the one hand, the online business on the other hand, and the metaverse as well. So see it in that perspective. That would be my position, and learn by doing. And we all know that a lot of companies were late in getting online and lost a lot of business or went out of business. So be part of this.
Thank you. Elle, I'm sure you've been asked many times what NFTs are. So can you provide us with your elevator pitch, as it were, explanation of what an NFT is?
So the best way I have heard and found to describe it is to compare it to what we do understand, which is money. I give you $1, you give me a piece of candy. It's a bi-directional transaction. What I think of when I think of NFTs is those carnivals we went to when we were kids that popped up in town greens or at the high school and on the football field. We bought a whole book of tokens, and those tokens we could use for anything at the carnival. We might be able to use that token for the Ferris wheel. We might be able to use that token for only the bungee thing because it was the color blue. So these tokens are assigned, these tickets or carnival tickets are assigned a value based on what we've agreed it is. So it's in facilitating a multi-directional transaction too, because I could also say, oh, my mom called, I gotta go home. Who wants to buy my tokens? And we can send it to the next person. But what's nice about the metaverse is maybe the first person who built that NFT can code into it that 20% goes back to them every single time it's sold on to the next person. And that's the way that I can really understand it compared to our bi-directional transaction with monetary currency.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great definition. And I like that angle on it. Laura, can I turn to you again? Because you were telling me the other day that you've conducted some research on millennials and Gen Z. Tell us more about what you learned about what their attitude is to NFTs.
Yes, we conducted a research on millennials and Gen Z through a surveys in order to understand the perception of the phenomenon of the metaverse and the NFTs in the new generation. I would like to clarify that this is a qualitative study, as the sample was made out of 100 people from these two generations. As a result of our survey, I would like to underline the most important thing we discovered. We understood that the young generation has a great consideration of the importance of this phenomenon, with the 70% of people answering that they believe that this is a revolutionary phenomenon that is destined to last over time. But only the 30% of who answered consider themselves well informed on that subject. So this could mean that we still need to learn a lot about this theme. Moreover, among the 30% of people who said that is informed about the topic, only the 10% of those has experienced NFTs concretely. So we decided to deeply study this 10%, and we discovered that those who has a concrete experience in the metaverse and with NFTs consider the functionality as the first opportunity for our sector. And on the second step, we have the creativity. So the creation, for example, of work of art and a way to collect them. And then we have the entertainment, so a playful reality able to make the young generation have some leisure time. For a future scenario, we understood that almost all the answers were about telling us about the significant advantage they believe this new technology will bring to companies. And a very interesting answer, which leaves room for consideration, stated that this phenomenon will lead to new ways to see the preciousness of jewelry. So these are the consideration of this sample of 100 people from these two generations. And yeah.
Eric, and thank you for that, Laura, sorry. Eric, you had something to add.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Laura, because I think this is so true. Because I mean, jewelry is a luxury product. Why would people buy jewelry? And what I know from talking with the new generation, the young generation, and my own kids, for instance, they say, well, everything has to come with a story. Everything has to come with a purpose. So you buy with a purpose. You buy a story. So a diamond or a ruby or is not enough. You want to know what it is and why it's there and how it's mined. And I think technology, like an NFT, like traceability programs, I mean, help a lot in that storytelling, because if you have a ring, if you have an earring whatsoever, or a watch, you can trace the whole story. And you talk with your friends or you're online and share that kind of information. It is part of the experience. It's part of the purpose. I can't express that enough, that this is an extra dimension for jewelry buyers and sellers to acknowledge.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, just to round off the conversation a little bit as we head towards the hour, I really want to understand how we connect the digital environment and the digital product with the physical product that we're so used to dealing with. And as I see it, there are lots of different applications, and we've talked about some of them. But Mahia, I'd like to turn to you with a question of the compliance systems that we have in the diamond trade, such as the Kimberley Process Certification Scheme. So do you see potential here for NFTs? We talked about the importance of it driving authenticity. Do you see some potential here to use NFTs to bolster these compliance systems that we have in the diamond industry?
So, yes. However, I see it much better to be put onto a blockchain. And keep in mind, NFT it can be linked to blockchain, and it can actually continue down the path. So you can link all of these technologies together to create the story that Eric is talking about, right? If you actually have mined a specific product at a certain location, and you have the platinum from a different location, and each of them have a blockchain traceability aspect linked to them, then at the end of it, when the final product is developed and created, you can actually create a fantastic NFT that tells the story of that product from origin to where it's been polished to, or jewelry been made and everything else, all the way through the aspect of the actual product itself. And more importantly, then your avatar can wear it in a game and use it as a superpower product, and you yourself can wear it and be a superpower individual. Malcolm Mead has developed a really great thing on blockchain where you can actually physically insure, first insured blockchain product in the entire industry. You can blockchain your cryptocurrency, and then you have a physical product that you go, and when you give it to them, they will give you your blockchain cryptocurrency, and then you can put it back if you want to. How cool would it be that you could actually do the same thing with your virtual and physical product, that you'd be able to actually utilize it in the same way, insurance purposes, tracking, traceability, story, etc. The key here, and this is so important, is that the entire industry needs to start working together on it, right? And the consumer will start asking for this sort of stuff. And the key for us as industry leaders is really being able to then drive that so the consumer can have what they desire. I mean, I think it's been mentioned a couple of times in this conversation. At the end of the day, it's what the consumer wants. Yes. And if the consumer wants it and they like it and they desire it, then we all should follow. We should be building that foundation today to ensure that we have the right products to be able to answer the consumer's needs. Because if we don't, we're going to be, again, moving into what did we do wrong, why this, why that, and so on and so forth, while other industries break us and break into an area which should be our place to hold. So sorry, excellent I get message. A bit passionate about this.
No, excellent message. We have to be driven by the consumer. I completely agree with you. And I think everybody else on the panel, I saw lots of people nodding. Listen, I'd like to turn to Elle. Elle, I know you have to run on the hour, so I just want to touch on a couple of questions to you if I can. Now, in the business of jewelry, what similarities do you see between this shift that we're making here from in real life or IRL jewelry stores now and the shift to the metaverse? And how does that compare to the shift that people have to make from in real life stores to e-commerce? You know, because these have been two big shifts that have taken place in the 21st century. And how are these jewelry stores going to make that shift now?
This is a really good question. You know, in the late 1990s, I think people were saying jewelry can't sell online. It's a
exactly.
Look, touch, and feel, right? You got to be there. You got to see it with your own eyes. You got to try it on. No one believed that the know, like, and trust that we develop online would come to supersede that, not supersede it, but to join it alongside. And then we used to talk about business being omni-channel or online only. That again is a bit of a dusty old cough, because what you must do is show up where your consumers want to consume you. And maybe that was Facebook 10 years ago, maybe that's Instagram 5 years ago, maybe that's TikTok today, but you have to show up in real life and online, and the combination is more powerful than anything because every consumer has a different way that they consume, and they more and more want a personalized delivery of what they want to hear and learn about that's responsive to their past behavior. So number one, I want to say it's real. And it's really happening. And we can't just say, la, 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 I can't hear you. It sounds like, you know, it's all for gamers. It's not. The metaverse is happening in the 2D right now. And we're having, you know, Justin Bieber, and we're having concerts with 45 million attending to watch, you know, a cartoon concert with real life audio. So it is real, but it is slow. And we still have a percentage, which I can't call out of my mind off the top. It's something like 40% of jewelry retailers in the United Kingdom, for example, that still don't have websites.
Yeah, yeah.
So we are notoriously slow. So I second, I'm getting excited about this. I second the emotion from Mahir that, you know, we must work together to grasp this and to not be the dinosaur-like industry that's, you know, a decade or more behind.
So, and the last question I have for you, because I know you have to run, and please feel free to leave whenever you need to, but many people are worried about IP, intellectual property in the metaverse. So how do we protect it?
Okay, so if I can back this up a little bit and talk about the internet 1.0, which was just messaging out like digital brochures about our businesses or jewelry, no transaction, no interaction. Then 2.0, what we're currently living with, which is about enabling communities and receiving information as much as we're sending information out. The metaverse lives in 3.0, right? Today, if you watch a YouTube video about me, you're not watching my YouTube video. You're watching YouTube's video that I generated for them. I don't own it. Tomorrow or today, as the metaverse is built, I can mint my own NFT of that video, plus the business plans and the methodology and the training, and I can monetize it so that everyone who loads it, who wants to use it in that way, can do it. It is actually an environment where piracy and intellectual property is much more protected than it ever was before.
Cool. Elle, thanks, and thanks for your time. Laura, this connection that we've been speaking of, the connection between the digital and the physical, how do we connect between the two? And furthermore, how are they connected?
Yes, I believe it's interesting to notice how many of the latest innovation concerning the jewelry sector see a direct connection between the physical and the digital world. I believe that is related to the characteristic of emotion and experience that characterize our industry. The majority of the interviews of our survey stated that while considering the metaverse and NFTs phenomenon destined to have an impact in the future, the digital world will never be able to completely replace the physical world in the jewelry world, in the jewelry sector. And the connection between these two worlds exists because we need both of them. And moreover, thinking about the connection, the functionality, I believe, may be one of the key as a connection with the real world. Just think about ARIA Consortium allowing the customer to have a direct access to the history of the product and its origins, and to follow his ethics and his sustainability, for example. In a world where more and more buyers and passionate people from the new generation are sensitive on these themes and are really interested to know what's behind the product, I believe that this could be one of the key connection between the two worlds. Or if we think about Octo Finissimo Ultra by Bulgari, where inside each of the watches there is an NFTs which is guarantees of his authenticity. I believe that this function of uniqueness, of experience, and could be one of the key. And I believe that maybe in the future, more and more companies from the jewelry industry will approach this connection as a development of this subject.
Excellent, thank you. Listen, let's just have some final thoughts. I do have a question that I want to ask for everybody to wrap up with. And Elle, I'm going to set you a challenge. I'm going to ask this question to you, and I know you've got to go, so you've got to answer it quickly. But is the traditional jewelry store dead? And why or why not?
Absolutely not. All we are trying to do in creating good user experience online is create an experience. The physical jewelry store has the jump on us, because you're in there, you're smelling, you're tasting, you're interacting with human beings, you're touching, you're trying on. They have the jump on us. What they haven't done enough is to leverage digital to drive traffic and engagement with the people who they meet in the stores and keep that omni-channel going.
Thank you, Elle. Thank you. If you have to leave, much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
All the best. Let me ask the same question to the rest of the panel, though, to wrap this up. Eric, can I go to you? Is the traditional jewelry store dead, and why or why not, based on your answer?
Well, depends on your strategy. I see a lot of traditional stores going bust and out of business because they're not coping with the new reality. And I think in a way that the situation around COVID forced a lot of companies to change their strategy. And one of the first I saw at the time, that's already almost 2 years ago, was Trata Fook. Trata Fook had to close the thousands of stores there in China. But what they did is they create a whole new experience in a consumer engagement with online shopping with not yet kind of metaverse, but avatars and things like that, but really create events online which attract a lot of customers. So you have to be innovative, you have to change, and you have to be able to continue to improve yourself and to rethink and reinvent yourself as a business. And in that context, I always say to people, because there's a lot of information we share today, if you have a company, how big or how small you are, make sure there's somebody in your company or yourself to get online, to be part of those communities, to be part of those webinars, to be part of those forum or fora, to learn and to do and make it part of your main strategy. So open your eyes and don't make the same mistakes at what people did at the time, not believing in the internet or whatsoever, but make sure you are ahead of the trends and you know what's going on, because that's the only way of understanding where this business is going from that point of view. And what I said earlier, the luxury sector, particularly the jewelry sector, has an enormous opportunity to be the first real take the first real advantage from this these new trends. So no, far from that, but you better be informed and look at the future.
Eric, that's such great advice. You know, make sure you've got people in the room in your company that are following this and understand it as it develops. Thanks for that. Laura, let me ask you, and you know, I'm not asking you to represent the new generation coming through, but you are the youngest person, as I said, in the room. And is the traditional jewelry store dead for you and your generation? Are you going to still be buying jewelry from stores? Tell me, what do you think?
Absolutely. I believe that the traditional store is not dead. We are not ready to leave it, as it has been part of our habits since decades. But if we compare to the past, a physical store nowadays must acquire new characteristics hand in hand with the stimuli that we are looking also for online. So the focus, for my personal opinion, must be an omnichannel strategy, able to integrate all the channels online and offline and taking the best out of them. As everything is changing, also the stores must evolve, because the first change is in the customers. Today we are really in front of an omnichannel customer, which has a huge power. According to a recent article published by McKinsey called "The 5 Zeros Reshaping the Stores," omnichannel customers purchase 70% more often and spend about the 34% more than people who shop exclusively in store. Yeah. So the first zero of this article, in fact, states that there shouldn't be differences among the channels. Moreover, I believe that along with an omnichannel strategy, the jewelry store today should consider the experience as the key. The new generation really need to feel part of a store, of a brand, of its history, of a lifestyle. And we need culture, we need knowledge, we need to improve, to grow. And we really need, I believe, to offer to the new generation an experience that can include culture and also a playful dimension, as more and more the young generation is looking for this kind of experience also online. So the online world can for sure inspire us, but the offline is not that at all.
Yeah, Laura, thank you for that. So much wisdom in what you spoke about there. Mahir, last word to you on this one. Is the traditional jewelry store dead?
Not yet, but it will be if it doesn't evolve. Yeah. I don't think there's any other way of putting it. You know, you have, let's agree, Chow Tai Fook is not traditional. Let's agree, Cha Sang Sang, Luk Fook, you know, the big retail chain stores in the United States, they're not traditional. because they're starting to evolve. They're understanding that technology is needed. They're understanding that interaction cannot be just physical. It needs to be virtual and physical. However, if you are 60% of the world's jewelry stores that are still owned and managed by wonderful, hardworking and dedicated people, you need to evolve. The mom and pop shops need to have that ability to be able to give both a virtual and physical sense. I mean, a lot of what we developed was purely around helping the independent retailers show virtual diamonds in their store, even though if the diamonds are thousands of miles away. Uni's focus has been around helping the independent retailers be able to compete in the future. And my desire is to see them flourish and grow as they have been in the past few years. And it's to actually strengthen in their business capabilities and skills. And the only way to do that is to create that virtual aspect, create that technological ability to link into their physical part, because they have something that most of the virtual jewelry companies don't. A physical space and a trust by multiple generations that they can take advantage of. And how great would it be to actually bring it all together to give them the ability to change the way that this industry works and behaves.
Great. Thank you for that. Steve, you had something to add?
Yeah. We had this sort of discussion, Ed, as you know, we had this discussion in Vicenza a few months ago, and at some stage I sort of felt that people were sort of struggling with the topic. And it struck me at the time over here that, you know, that we live in a or our experience is that let's say a city or a commercial center knows that it's made it when a Tiffany's or a Bulgari or Cartier or something opens up a store in the city. And you can say, and there's a handful of cities like that. You know, there's London and Paris and New York and places like that have all these stores. And now we on the cusp of a development over here that essentially these same companies are likely to set up a virtual store in the metaverse. That anybody anywhere in the world will be able to sort of step inside the store, look at the product, speak to the salesperson, and actually buy that product, be it digital, physical, or connected. So on the one hand, I think for a mom and pop store like now you said, I mean that is a very daunting prospect that you're going to be competing with these large stores. On the other hand, it provides opportunity that these smaller companies can actually step out of their environment and provide that same level of trust and personal attention to audiences outside of their immediate geographic environment. It's very difficult to perceive where it's going to go. The one thing that I think that we can be certain of is that the technologies are going to come down in cost. It's going to be easier to use because that's the nature of the field. But when you design your store, your store with an architect and you build a physical store, you're also going to have to design a three-dimensional store that people can access in the metaverse. We're entering a whole new world and environment that I think it's difficult at this stage. We can talk about it, but it's difficult to perceive the dimensions. This is a massive subject. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Steve. It's good. And you're right to point out this is a continuation of a discussion that we had in Vicenza in March or at the CIBJO General Assembly. So we've gone into much more detail here, and I'm grateful to everybody for that. We do have a few questions, which I know, as always, we're running 10, 15 minutes over, but I'd like to ask one because I think it's come up in a lot of the discussions that I've had preparing for this webinar as people are concerned about security in the new metaverse and using NFTs. And Carla asks, with internet hackers emerging, don't you think people could be afraid of scams since we're talking about a very expensive investment. I think the point is about how do we protect people's purchases when they're buying NFTs and operating in the metaverse. Who would like to take that? Maybe I can turn to Mahir first for that.
So if I'm not mistaken, a non-fungible token backed by blockchain would actually have to be traversed by the individual who actually owns that product to be given a key to release the product that they have. So imagine you have a safe box that's closed up really well. You can't edit it, you can't do anything with it. But the only way that you can do it is if the person actually allows you and gives you a key to be able to transfer that to someone else, or be able to give that to someone else. And that key becomes very critical. And again, I think there are going to be newer technology and things that can help with that. And you know, Eric raised his hand, so I'll pass it right along to Eric and see where he's at.
No, you are the expert there, and you're spot on. I just want to confirm that to you. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that yeah, new technology is coming in to provide more security, etc. But let's not forget, where there's people, there's greed, and where there's greed, there's fraud. So the metaverse world, the whole new public space we talk about, is not different from the day-to-day business. So people have to be aware of what's happening, but how many emails you get on phishing every day. So that's not different from that point of view. And I can tell you, when I opened up my own crypto wallet on MetaMask, what was it, over a year ago, I mean, it took more time to open that wallet, to open that account, than I opened an account via the Chase or whatsoever. So I think there's a lot of security, there's a lot of measures taken. But of course, we talk about still and not regulated or hardly any regulated environment where we're all trusting on technology and from that point of view. So yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point it's raised, and you have to be aware of it. But I don't see it as any different than the day-to-day challenge we have when we talk about phishing and fraud and everything else. That would be my opinion.
Thank you. Well, your opinion as a banker is very valid here in that conversation. So thank you. Gaetano, perhaps you'd like to join us for some closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I have a great impression, and I want to thank each one of you, the panelists, yourself, Ed, and Stephen. But I want to express my deep appreciation for those super esteemed friends that have agreed to be with us today, meaning our attendees. I don't want to say too much, because otherwise we'll take another couple of hours, and none of us has all this time. But I want to express just saying a couple of things. Number one, CIBJO is working already on all these activities, subjects, projects, with a number of options that we are studying seriously, and we are confident that we will deliver practical tools to the industry, member or non-member. That's number one. Number two, I myself as president, but also as an economist, I take a special angle through which bring all these, let's say, future elements into reality. And I would like to conclude with one single sentence, which is, the future is now. The future is now, because we have to be ready to change, and we in CIBJO, but we in the jewelry industry have already proved that we are ready to change, and we have to change very, very, very fast. In these 2 years or more of what has happened, the world has been and still is upside down for several reasons. But we have learned a lot, at least I can see on myself. And I feel that I have much more, let's say, perception, knowledge, and perception of the reality, real and virtual, traditional and the one towards the future. And then we have to change with what everything is happening and where the world is going to. We have to follow. In CIBJO, we try to anticipate a little bit if we are able to do. But we can be able to do if all of you, speakers and attendees, will push us to do, because as I always say, we can do more and we can do better. Why? Because simply we can do that. So I want to thank you very much indeed for your patience. And honestly, I have to congratulate all of you, because I was suspecting that we were going overtime at least 1 hour, but you know, we have been so good to be more or less on time. And and to our sponsor, thank you very much for your help and support.
Yeah, well said, Gaetano. Thank you. Well, it just falls on me to thank individually in absentia. We thank Elle Hill for her time and her wisdom and her analogies, I think, which went down very well. Mahir, thank you so much for your sponsorship and support, and thank you for your time this afternoon. Laura, it's been a pleasure for you to join us for the first time, hopefully the first of many here on Jewelry Industry Voices. We wish you all the best for the rest of your day there in Milano. And Eric, as always, thank you. And I'm so pleased that Miles, your beautiful dog, behaved himself during this webinar and settled down into his little nest, as you put it. So, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Gaetano, thank you.
Thank you, Gaetano Cavalieri, Edward Johnson, Steve Benson, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you all.
Well done, Steve and Ed, as always. Thanks all.
You're most welcome, everybody. I wish you all the best for the rest of the day. And luckily, my internet here in rural Mozambique stood up through the whole webinar, so that was a plus point. Okay.
So you can see that the future is really now, because
the future is in Mozambique, apparently. There
what
you
we
go.
did today was impossible. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Arrivederci.
Everybody, have a good day.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye. Adios.